In March 1922, a family of 6 was found dead on a remote farmstead in Bavaria, Germany. They had been murdered with a mattock, a heavy farm tool used to break hard ground. The killer struck each victim in the skull. Then he stayed. He fed the animals. He lit the fires. He slept in the house. For days. While the bodies lay in the barn and in the bedrooms. Nobody came. Nobody knew. The case was never solved. The farm was called Hinterkaifeck. It sat alone in the Bavarian countryside 70 kilometers north of Munich. The nearest neighbor was far away. The nearest village was a long walk through forest. 6 people lived there. Andreas Gruber, aged 63. His wife Cecilia, aged 72. Their daughter Victoria, aged 35. Her daughter Cecilia, aged 7. Her son Joseph, aged just 2. And a new maid named Maria Baumgartner. She had arrived that morning. It was her first day. In the weeks before the murders, Andreas Gruber had told neighbors something deeply unsettling. He said he had found footprints in the snow leading from the edge of the forest toward the farmhouse. But there were no footprints leading back. Someone had walked to the farm and had not walked away. He also heard footsteps in the attic at night, and a newspaper had appeared on the property that nobody had ordered. He told no one in authority. He did not call police. The previous maid had quit suddenly months before the murders. She told people she had felt something evil in that house, that she could not stay any longer. Nobody asked her what she meant. Nobody followed up. The farm continued, and the family stayed. On the evening of March 31st, 1922, Andreas Gruber, his wife, their daughter, and their granddaughter were lured one by one into the barn. Each was struck from behind with a mattock. The 7-year-old Cecilia survived long enough to pull clumps of her own hair from her head before she died. Investigators found the hair still clutched in her hand. Inside the farmhouse, the 2-year-old Joseph was killed in his cot. The new maid Maria was killed in her room. She had been on the farm for only a few hours. The weapon was never found. The killer was never identified. But what happened after the murders is what makes this case unlike any other. For the next several days, neighbors noticed smoke rising from the Hinterkaifeck chimney. The farm appeared to be functioning normally from a distance. The animals were being fed. The fires were being maintained. Mail was collected from the postbox. Several neighbors visited the property during those days. None of them went inside far enough to find anything wrong, and whoever was inside did not come out to greet them. On April 4th, 1922, 4 days after the murders, neighbors finally became concerned enough to investigate properly. They entered the farmhouse. They found the maid and the baby inside. Then they went to the barn, and they found the rest of the family. They had been lying there for 4 days, while someone had been living among them. Police were called. Over 100 people from surrounding villages were interviewed. Forensic experts examined the scene. The bodies were sent to Munich for autopsy. The heads of 4 victims were removed and sent to a clairvoyant who claimed he could identify the killer by examining them. This was 1922. It did not work. Investigators identified several suspects. A local man named Lorenz Schlittenbauer had previously had a relationship with Victoria and believed he might be the father of her son Joseph. He was one of the first people to enter the barn and find the bodies. Investigators noticed he seemed to know exactly where to look. He was questioned repeatedly. He was never charged. Others were suspected over the decades that followed. A drifter, a former farmhand, a relative with a motive over inheritance. Every theory was investigated. Every theory was eventually abandoned. The case went cold. Then, it was reopened. Then, it went cold again. Most recently, a criminology class at a German university spent years analyzing the original evidence. They named Lorenz Schlittenbauer as the most likely suspect. He died in 1941. He was never charged with anything. In 1923, the farm was demolished. Every building, every structure. The ground was cleared. The land still exists today. A field now. Unremarkable from the outside, but locals know what it is, and they do not go near it after dark. The question investigators could never answer was not just who did it. It was why the killer stayed. Why did he feed the animals? Why did he light the fires? Why did he collect the mail? Was he waiting for something? Was he watching to see who would come looking? Nobody has ever been able to explain it. Andreas Gruber, Cecilia Gruber, Victoria Gabriel, Cecilia Gabriel aged 7, Josef Gabriel aged 2, Maria Baumgartner aged 25. 6 people, an isolated farm, a weapon never found, a killer who stayed for days, and a case that has remained unsolved for over 100 years. Somewhere in Bavaria in 1922, someone committed 6 murders and walked back into their ordinary life, and nobody ever knew what they had done.